Imagine opening your eyes to the sound of crushing waves, only to realize you're not in a nightmare. You're living one. You're floating in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, your boat shattered, the sky silent, and the person you love most gone. No radio, no engine, no sail, just you, the wreckage, and endless blue stretching in every direction. 47 days, 47 nights. Nothing but fear, hunger, and the will to stay alive. This isn't fiction. Tis Apanet, to a young woman who refused to drown in her own tragedy. Tami Oldham wasn't a thrill seeker. She was a 23-year-old American girl who simply loved the ocean, its freedom, its silence, its promise of adventure. In 1983, she and her fiancé, Richard Sharp, accepted what felt like a dream opportunity: sail a luxury yacht from Tahiti to San Diego. It was supposed to be a peaceful journey across calm Pacific waters, a final adventure before settling down and building a life together. For weeks, the trip was perfect: sunsets on the deck, quiet nights under the stars, and plans for their future whispered in the warm sea breeze. But deep beneath the horizon, something deadly was forming. A storm unlike anything they had ever seen, a force of nature so violent that it would destroy everything in its path and leave Tami facing the most terrifying battle of her life, completely alone. Tami and Richard's journey began like a dream written in soft ocean winds. The yacht, a beautiful 44-foot vessel named Hazan, sliced gently through turquoise water, as if welcoming them into a world far away from noise and responsibilities. Every morning, they woke to sunrises that painted the sky gold, brewed coffee on the deck, and planned their route toward San Diego with excitement that felt almost childlike. They laughed, cooked simple meals together, played music, and recorded moments with their small camera. At night, they sat under a blanket of stars, talking about marriage, future travels, and the quiet life they hoped to build. Richard, calm and experienced, taught Tami new sailing techniques, while she teased him about taking everything too seriously. It felt like the ocean had become their private home: no deadlines, no distractions, just two people in love moving across an endless blue canvas. 4 days, nothing hinted at danger. If anything, the sea felt unusually peaceful, as if it wanted them to believe this serenity could last forever. But far beyond the horizon, forces were gathering that would soon turn this perfect journey into a fight for survival neither of them could have imagined. As they moved farther into open waters, subtle signs of change appeared. A shift in the wind's tone, distant clouds stacking like dark mountains, and waves that grew slightly heavier with each passing hour. Richard noticed first, frowning at weather reports coming through the radio. The news was unsettling. A category 4 hurricane named Raymond was forming, unpredictable and moving fast. They tried adjusting their course, hoping to avoid the worst of it, but the storm expanded like a living beast, swallowing the horizon. By late afternoon, the once friendly ocean turned restless. Winds whipped across the deck like knives, and the sky dimmed into a bruised purple. Richard secured the sails while Tami helped tie down anything that could be thrown around. They both knew they were running out of time. With every minute, the wind grew louder, the waves taller, and the atmosphere charged with a kind of electricity that made the hair on Tami's arms rise. The calm romantic journey they'd shared just days earlier now felt like a distant memory. Storms were normal at sea, but this one didn't feel normal. It felt intentional, fierce, almost alive, and they were heading straight into its jaws. As night fell, the hurricane unleashed its full fury. Winds roared at more than 140 miles per hour, shaking the yacht like a toy in a giant's hand. Rain hammered the deck so violently it felt like bullets hitting metal. Richard shouted instructions, his voice nearly swallowed by the storm, as he worked desperately to secure the equipment and keep the yacht from capsizing. Tami stayed below deck, as he insisted, holding onto rails as the boat pitched violently. The sound of the ocean smashing against the hull was deafening, each impact sending tremors through her chest. Then, without warning, a monstrous rogue wave, nearly 50 feet tall, rose in front of them, blocking out the sky. Tami felt the yacht tilt upward, climbing the impossible wall of water. For one suspended moment, everything went silent. Then, the world flipped. The wave crashed over them with unimaginable force, capsizing the yacht, ripping ropes, breaking metal, and tearing Richard from the deck. Tami was slammed into the cabin wall, pain exploding through her body as darkness swallowed her. The last thing she heard before losing consciousness was Richard's voice shouting her name, and then the ocean drowned out everything. When Tami finally opened her eyes, the world was unnervingly quiet. Her head throbbed, blood staining her hair, and the cabin around her was soaked, tilted, and For a moment she couldn't remember where she was or what had happened. Then the memories crashed back. The storm, the wave, Richard. She stumbled onto the deck, calling his name, her voice cracking against the vast emptiness of the ocean. There was no one. The mast was gone, snapped clean off, the radio was dead, the engine flooded, and most of the equipment had been torn away. Debris floated around her like broken pieces of a life she couldn't rebuild. Panic clawed at her chest as she screamed into the wind, hoping for any answer, any hint that Richard was still alive. But the sea stared back in cold silence. Hours passed as she searched every corner, clung to every faint hope, and begged the universe for a miracle. Exhaustion finally overtook her, and she collapsed on the damaged deck, realizing the truth that shattered her soul. She was alone. Completely alone, lost in the middle of the Pacific, with no help coming unless she found a way to survive. Despite the crushing grief, something inside Tami refused to surrender. She forced herself to move, searching through the wreckage for anything useful. She found a small stash of canned food, a little water, a surviving solar-powered navigation tool, and a torn sail that could still catch a bit of wind. Her body ached with every movement, but survival depended on action, not tears. Studying the ocean currents and the broken equipment, she realized Hawaii was her only chance, more than 1,500 miles away. It was nearly impossible, but drifting aimlessly meant certain death. Using scraps of rope and her remaining strength, she rigged a makeshift sail and patched holes as best she could. Each day became a battle. Rationing tiny spoonfuls of food, filtering water with improvised tools, steering with broken instruments, and holding on to hope when everything around her screamed despair. She endured burning sun, freezing nights, and waves that tossed the damaged boat like a leaf. Yet she kept going, driven by a voice inside her that whispered she had to live. Even if she didn't understand why, survival was no longer just a goal. It became her promise to herself and to the memory of Richard. Physical survival was brutal, but the battle inside Tami's mind was far worse. Isolation wrapped around her like a tightening grip. Days blended together, and nights stretched endlessly as the sea creaked and breathed around her. Hunger gnawed at her body, but loneliness gnawed at her sanity. She began hearing Richard's voice, soft, calm, guiding her, telling her what to fix, which direction to steer, reminding her she wasn't done yet. Whether hallucination or instinct, she clung to it like a lifeline. Sometimes she imagined him sitting beside her, smiling, encouraging her to keep fighting. Other moments, the grief hit so hard she doubled over, choking on her own sobs. The ocean, indifferent and endless, became both her enemy and her only companion. To stop herself from losing her mind, she talked aloud, repeated survival steps, sang songs from her childhood, and forced her thoughts toward action. Every time the boat drifted off course or another storm approached, she reminded herself that she had already lived through the worst moment imaginable. Compared to that, everything else was a challenge, not a death sentence. Her mind wanted to break, but something deeper inside her refused to let go. By the time she reached day 47, Tami was barely recognizable even to herself. Her skin was burned, lips cracked, muscles weak, and thoughts slow from exhaustion. But she kept checking the horizon every morning, refusing to give up on the smallest possibility of land. Then, on that 47th day, just after sunrise, she saw something faint, dark, solid. She blinked hard, thinking it was another hallucination, but the shape stayed. Land. Real land. A cry of disbelief escaped her, raw and broken, as she used her last strength to adjust the makeshift sail. Hours felt like lifetimes as the boat crept closer. When she finally reached the reef near Hilo, Hawaii, a wave pushed the boat into the shore, and she collapsed, unable to move. Locals spotted the damaged yacht, and rushed to her, lifting her from the deck as she whispered thank you through trembling lips. She had survived the impossible 47 days alone in the Pacific, guided only by hope and the will to live. As she lay in the arms of her rescuers, she felt something she hadn't felt in weeks. Safety, warmth, and the overwhelming realization that she had made it. Recovery was slow, painful, and emotional. Tami's body was fragile, but her heart was even more shattered. She mourned Richard deeply, replaying their last moments together, wondering if she could have saved him, wishing she could hear his voice one more time. But with time, therapy, and support, she began rebuilding her life piece by piece. She learned that strength doesn't always look like confidence, so met the Mesita simply waking up and choosing to keep going. Tami later wrote a memoir, Red Sky in Morning, turning her pain into purpose and sharing her journey with the world. Her story inspired millions, proving that hope can survive even in the darkest places. Years later, her experience became a Hollywood film, introducing her incredible resilience to a new generation. Though the ocean took someone she loved, it also revealed who she truly was. A fighter, a survivor, and a reminder that the human spirit is far stronger than we believe. Tami didn't just survive the storm, she learned to live again, with courage born from loss, and strength carved from 47 days of solitude, fear, and unbreakable determination. After everything she endured, Tami's story became more than just a tale of survival. It became a reminder of what the human spirit is capable of when everything else is stripped away. She faced the ocean's fury, the crushing silence of isolation, the heartbreak of losing the person she loved, and the constant battle between hope and despair. Yet she refused to surrender. Her journey teaches us that strength is not always loud. Sometimes it's the quiet decision to take one more breath, fix one more problem, survive one more day. And even in her darkest moments, when the world around her felt endless and empty, she carried within her a spark that refused to die. Tami didn't survive because she was unbreakable. She survived because she chose not to stay broken. Her story stands as a powerful reminder that life can take everything from us in a single moment, but it can also give us the courage to rebuild. And somewhere between loss and survival, we often discover who we truly are. If you want more true, real-life stories of courage, survival, and the human spirit, make sure to like, subscribe, and tell me which story you want next.